Okay, I am not saying that Donald Trump will win re-election in 2020, but I am saying that the left and Democrats can almost guarantee it if they keep up some of the antics that we're seeing right now. Today, I will present to you an anti-playbook for Democrats for 2020, which I will be talking about. This is stuff that Democrats shouldn't do. Okay, let's take a look at the list. First of all, let Trump set the narrative. And this includes our recent discussions about Twitter. Yes, Donald Trump often makes racist comments. There is not an election to be won by having endless debates about how racist were Trump's comments. Trump using Twitter and using the media to set the narrative is a way that Democrats will lose control of the 2020 campaign, and it will help Donald Trump get reelected. Every day that Donald Trump's racist tweets create yet another 24-hour news cycle of debate over how racist it was, and I'm not defending any of what Donald Trump has said or done, is a day that we are not focused on issues and why people should be voting for a Democrat for the White House in 2020 instead of Donald Trump. Number two, continuing to argue publicly about impeachment. I've said it before and I will say it again since I'm summing all of these points up today. Democrats need to decide, are we doing an impeachment inquiry now? And if so, do it. Are we waiting and are we going to do an impeachment inquiry at some point in the future, maybe 6 months from now, that we've determined will be more damaging to Donald Trump's reelection campaign? Or, and if that's the case, shut up for now and do it in 6 months. Or number three, are we going to move on and we're not doing an impeachment inquiry and we're going to forget about it and we're just going to try to win the 2020 election on the issues? No matter what, public debate amongst Democrats and infighting about if, when, how, or whether to start an impeachment inquiry is not going to help remove Donald Trump from the White House in 2020. Number three, debating issues of minor concern to voters. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this one because it really probably deserves its own segment. But this also relates to the idea of spending too much time on losing issues. The entire part of the last debate about raise your hands if you will give free health care to undocumented immigrants. There is a very important philosophical debate to be had around that. And it is a debate that is basically happening within the left because the right, for the most part, says, no, we're not giving free health care to undocumented immigrants. In the general election, that's a losing issue. And what I hope we see in the subsequent debates, the two-night second Democratic debate that's going on this week, the September debate, when it comes to questions about healthcare or whatever else, Democrats need to take back the narrative from these poorly framed questions by the debate moderators. It's partially the fault of the debate moderators, I will admit, and we need to stop sort of rallying around what in the general election are going to be losing issues. And free healthcare for undocumented immigrants in the general election will be a losing issue. And I understand the merits of it. But this is, again, a playbook for winning, not a playbook for being right philosophically. OK, there's advice floating around about Democrats should focus on just one issue. Democrats should say there's so much noise out there and Trump's tweets and the border and taxes and all this stuff. Democrats should focus on only one issue. I think that is a losing strategy. Very often you hear that one issue should be health care. Democrats can walk and chew gum at the same time, or at least they should be able to. At least the person we want to put in the White House should be able to. Focusing only on one issue, even if it is as important an issue as healthcare, is not a winning strategy, and Democrats should not take this one issue approach. Another thing that Democrats really need to not do is allow Donald Trump to divide the left. The Pelosi versus the squad stuff that we talked about last week. There is a really healthy and important debate to be had within the Democratic Party about, is this going to be the party of the center left, like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, or is this going to be the party of people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren when it comes to presidential candidates? And what is the role of the squad versus Nancy Pelosi in sort of figuring that out? Allowing Donald Trump to take advantage of that, to insert himself in it, to take sides, to drive a further wedge between sides of the Democratic Party. This is a way to lose the 2020 election, and Democrats need to be aware of how so many of Donald Trump's actions and the people around him are designed to divide the left in that way. Not understanding how to spend money is going to be a downfall of the Democrats in 2020 if we don't figure it out. Donald Trump is going to pour money into advertising in the Midwest. The Midwest was the difference maker for him in 2016. It was really close. We need to understand how to spend money. I would love to get money out of politics in 2020. There will still be money in politics. Democrats need to figure out how to spend it. And then also, we should not try to win the election trying to change the minds of Trumpists. You know my thoughts on this already. This is about turnout. This is about getting our base out. And by our base, I don't mean 60-plus-year-old Democratic voters who have voted for 40 years. That's a different type of base. I mean people who are clearly against Donald Trump, but who may not vote, okay? You can get 10 of them to vote probably with less effort than you can change the mind of one Trumpist. So we are not going to win this election by changing the minds of Trumpists. And then the other thing Democrats should not do is ignore voter suppression until November of 2020. Every election cycle I do this, and I tell you, we need to continue talking about all of the voter suppression tactics throughout the periods between elections. And I've been doing it to the extent that I have things to talk about, and there are things to talk about. If we wait until, October, November of 2020 to try to sort that out, they will cheat, okay? We have to turn out new voters in a large enough way to overwhelm the right's efforts to cheat while simultaneously fighting the reductions in voting hours, fighting all sorts of voter purges that are going on, and everything else that we've been talking about relating to voting machines and voting machine lobbyists and foreign interference in elections and Mitch McConnell's complete lack of interest or willingness to participate in stopping that foreign interference. We've got to deal with that. And we also need to make sure that we get the vote out to such a degree that we can overwhelm the efforts to cheat that the right will employ. If something is missing from this anti-playbook for 2020 Democrats, let me know. I guess I should add, don't run to the middle, right? And I maybe that's sort of, it's so obvious that it didn't even occur to me to put it on the list, but we've talked about this before. Democrats right now should not be running a centrist platform. We need to actually run a platform that represents the progressive values that matter and that are important. Let me know if something's missing from the list.